What's up, everyone? Our Paldea Evolved set is out in Japan, and the first tournament that it's legal for, which was Champions League in Niigata, just occurred, and the top 16 decks are here. To preface this, Japan tournaments are best of one all the way through, so even though there was almost 3,000 players, they never played a best of three set. You can see that Gardevoir took first and second, with a lot of Lost Zone Tinas making their way into the top 16. Today we're going to take a look at these top 16 lists, kind of break them down a little bit so you guys are ready for Paldea Evolved in about a month and a half when it comes out. You guys can jump right into it. My name is Rahul Reddy. If you guys enjoy this kind of content, please like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. And let me know in the comments below what Paldea Evolved card you're looking forward to the most and what deck you might be playing right now. So without further ado, let's jump into it. We're going to start at 16th and move our way upwards. In 16th, we had Lost Zone Tina. Now, Lost Zone Tina did not really get any new tools from the Paldea Evolved set, besides one copy of Iono. This list does not seem to be sporting a multiple, because Iono says both players shuffle their hands into their decks and place them at the bottom, and then draw cards equal to the number of their prize cards. So Iono is a late game, like Roxanne, but also in the early game is a functional hand reset that Tina could use to not have to recycler, I guess. But this deck also gets Super Rod back, which is actually pretty useful because you don't always want to just Clara back one Sableye or like one Tina line, because that's not always your route to win. So now with one Super Rod, that can take the spot of Clara. Yes, it's not Pokegear searchable, but you have like access to the energies, which is like the most important part that this deck ends up needing. Jet Energy is very important in this deck to, give yourself a free retreat pivot while moving a Comfey into the active. An overall very consistent, straightforward list. And this one's playing 4 Path to the Peak, which is a little bit aggressive. But I guess when you're set up, you don't really need abilities, and you want to kind of break through things and make sure Gardevoir doesn't get their way to one-shot Tina. In 15th, we also had a Giratina V-Star Lost Zone deck. This one playing 2 copies of Roxanne, a little bit thicker lines across the board, playing Drapion to respect Mew VMAX, and playing 2 copies of Super Rod as opposed to any copies of Recycler. Which I think is fine. I think having heavier copies of Super Rod is better just because you have more access and flexibility to bring back exactly what you might need in a certain situation. I do think it's all better than Clara. 2 Paths to the Peak seems completely reasonable compared to the 4. 1 Choice Belt seems like a very good addition because 310 is a very good number, especially for hitting on Gardevoir. No, it doesn't hit on Gardevoir. I'm trolling. But it goes through V-Guard energy, on Arceus. And you can play Cleansing Gloves if you're afraid of Gardevoir as well. I think Cleansing Gloves could be an interesting tech card. We saw some of the Arceus decks this past weekend playing them, so this could be a very interesting addition. In 14th place, we have our first instance of Gardevoir playing 1 Mirage Step Gardevoir to set up your board. We're seeing the Gallade with Buddy Catch in the list to find our supporters more reliably. We see the Drifloon coming into play, the Drifloon that's been so notorious to do the Balloon Burst attack or Balloon Blast attack. 2 copies of Iono replacing researches. In these lists, no research at all, actually. Just Iono to disrupt your opponent in the early game, maybe even late game, and we also get to draw cards up to 6 pretty early because Guardian doesn't take early prizes. Arven, Worker, Clara, Thornton. Thornton is an interesting one to have because I guess the Thornton can either go into a Drifloon, into a Zacian, Cresselia out of nowhere, make your Mew into a Ralts, make your Manaphy into a Ralts, something like that later in the game. Agatha is interesting also because it acts as a plus 30. I don't know if Agatha is necessarily good, but it could catch a lot of people off guard because Agatha then gives you a plus 30 and then another attachment if needed. Maybe 2 attachments actually, if my math adds up correctly. Yep. Very consistent cards across the board. 1 copy of Emergency Jelly to pair with the Arven to go onto our Shining Arcana Gardevoir to make sure that doesn't get knocked out, or even the Zacian V. Sky Seal Stone. I remember this name, Artisan, yeah. Once you're going to turn them a search deck for the basic, just put it on their bench. So Artisan acts as another way to search cards and also a supporter or like a search card. We also have a Reversal Energy, which says as long as we're attached to a Pokemon, it provides colors. If you have more than your opponent, this card provides 3 of any type. So it's a great comeback card because you can just literally attach this to a Shining Arcana Gardevoir and have a huge swing turn to just bring the game back into your favor and close it out with something like a Zacian plus Sky Seal Stone, or just start the prize swing back in your favor, especially against decks like Giratina, Arceus, Mew, that are going to be guaranteed taking these prizes early. This one-off energy acting as a plus 60 could be very, very strong. We have another Gardevoir in at 13th. This one playing a little bit more risky, I want to say. There's only 1 copy of Psychic Embrace Gardevoir And it's playing one copy of this Gallade that says Dynablade, 60x each of your opponent's V Pokemon in play, kind of capitalizing on picking off bigger V Pokemon, going towards the Mewtwo V Union towards the late game. 2 copies of Manaphy, just saying, hey, I'm going to set up, and you're not going to be able to burst through my board. No copies of Mew. And this new Luxray from our Paldea Evolved set that says Overflowing Fighting Spirit. If you have more price left than your opponent, just put this guy onto your bench, and for 3 energy, it does 180 and 22 itself. This is a great Lugia answer, and also just an overall ton of damage into anything that is, what do I do? Lightning Weak, especially with the combination of the new Reversal Energies. This list playing 4 Reversal Energy, obviously opting to play from behind, going for Iono Reversal Energy plays, until we can eventually move into a Mewtwo V Union, power that up, and just start popping the board, I think is the idea behind this list. Much less focused on the Gardevoir EX, just saying, hey, we'll get there when we get there. We have Peonia if we prize our 1 Gardevoir, so we can eventually get our Peonia out with Palpad. We have 2 ways to find it. It should be okay. And then in 12th, we had Mew Fusion with 1 Psychic Basic. Mew Fusion, a deck that has not really been popular recently, but coming out of the woodworks here with Alessa's Sparkle, Boss's Orders, Judge. Your typical kit is here. All the rush cards, the Cram, Ultra Ball, VIP Pass, Power Tablet, Lost Vacuum, Switch card. Just ways to go through your deck as quickly as possible. Find the turn 1 Meloetta attack with Melodious Echo and Alessa's Sparkle, hitting 210 damage or more with Choice Belt, Vitality Band, and Power Tablets in tow. Lost City, Crystal Cave, and Collapsed, 1 of each stadium here, giving the deck multiple options on how to play the game, especially with the Crystal Cave respecting Lost Box style decks. Next up, in 11th, we have Giratina, once again. This one playing a little bit more 4 O's down the board. We see the 4 Chorus, 2 Boss, the 2 Iono, 1 Roxy. I think this is a little bit interchangeable, however you'd like it. Only 2 Path, once again, we see the Super Odds over the Energy Recyclers. Something very important to note, that people are going to have their own personal preference on these kinds of things. No Drapion, once again, not respecting the Mew VMAX deck, just saying, hey, we'll get there when we get there. Yeah, Tina is going to be a contender. And again, we have 1 more Tina hitting the board here. This one looking a lot more identical to the previous one. List looks very, very similar. Almost the exact same list, I think, actually. Yeah, these guys played the exact same list, I guess. Wow, okay. Is that 3 Tinas in a row? So maybe I opened an extra Tina. But the Tinas are very, very identical across the board. Nothing crazy to write home about it. And then we go backwards into Mew VMAX. Mew Fusion, once again, taking a slot here, I think in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In 8th, so it made top 8, so 1 step further than top 16. Playing a Path to the Peak of their own for late game Path Iono, which is going to replace Path Roxanne, I think, in this deck, because early game Iono, you want to have that draw. It's not a dead card in your hand. You can actually go through your deck, especially with a deck like Fusion Mew, where you don't want to have dead cards sitting in your deck. 1 Choice Belt, 1 Echoing Horn just to close out games. 1 Avery is also Avery Horn, a good combination play to close it out. Just put some pressure on our opponents. 2 Alessa's Sparkle, 3 Forest Sealstone. Just push ourselves to get to that turn 1 knockout and get tempo from there as soon as possible. In 7th, we have a little bit of a spicy deck. Goodra making a comeback. Goodra with its Rolling Iron, setting up the board in the way you want it to, with a Zamazenta Metal Shield that has Retaliate to hit for 220 and swing the tempo back in your favor. This new Spiritomb that's going to be coming into the game in the Paldea Evolved set with the Dark Calamity ability. Basic Pokemon V have no abilities, which, well, it shuts down Genesect V, it shuts down Mew, it shuts down Greninja. Oh, no, wait, that doesn't shut down Mew. It shuts down Genesect V, basically, effectively. And that's basically all it does, shuts down Genesect Vs while you're playing the game, so you're basically putting Mew in a position where they can't really draw cards, and you don't have to play Drapion, which is a bad starter. You don't really want to play Drapion on this deck because Goodra loses games by opening Drapion, not really having a great way to do something with it. But now if you have this guy, you can bounce it back to your hand if it's in a bad matchup, or you can even just keep him on the board because he's not a liability. He's just a 1 price, 60 HP dude that doesn't like lose anything. Goodra, this interesting enough, not playing any copies of Iono, playing Artisan as well, which is very, very strong, I think. 2 Super Odd taking the place of Recyclers, which I think will become the trend moving forward because it kind of acts as a double-edged sword, and you can also get the Clara on your side. So, very interesting that there's no Iono here, but the Spiritomb taking the place of Drapion makes a lot of sense to me. Next up, we have Gardevoir. Gardevoir, once again, proving that why it is a very, very powerful deck when it sets up. This list looks very cut and dry, playing the Drifloon. Once again, but no Tropical Beach, no Charm of Courage, just heavier rare candy counts, playing 3 rare candies, saying, hey, I'm going to get to my Gardevoir faster than everyone else, and then I can start attacking by turn 2. 3 copies of Iono, 3 copies of Research, just a very aggressive, I'm going through my deck build. No fun supporters, Nothing at all. 2 super odds for recovery. Just saying I want to research or Iono every single turn. I want to set up my board and just attack, attack, attack. Which I like this method. I think it's a very good method. Attacking means taking prizes, and that's all you need to do. Next up, we have Lugia. First instance of Lugia in the last list to make top 8. This Lugia list sporting pretty much the usual single strike package across the board. The interesting addition here is the Luxray making its way into the deck. Luxray giving us a way to power it up and attack with lightning type in the mirror, and maybe in other scenarios as well. 180 seems like a lot of good damage. Playing one of the energies to power it up, which is all we really need. I guess this could also go on like Archeops if you need to put this here, but you don't really have any other, and like Lugia. I guess Lugia, but you're not really behind, I think, a lot of the time, besides Mirror, probably, because they're going to out-aggress you. 2 copies of Iono giving us ways to put energy back into our deck that aren't Judge, because I don't think Judge was very good necessarily. Judging ourselves to 4 never felt good. But Ionoing ourselves to 6 gives us a playable hand in theory. 2 copies of Tower, 2 copies of Collapse, a lot of stadiums here to bump Path to the Peak. I don't know if you need this many, maybe a Pumpkaboo could be just better, but we'll see. Jet Energy giving us a way to move from the bench to the active very, very easily without having to retreat and waste our energies. So Lugia, still very much alive. Now we're moving into our top 4. Okay, I guess that's fine. And here we have Arc, Giratina, Pikachu. Arc Giratina just won a regionals this weekend with the Skwovet, the hero of the hour. We see it again here with 2 copies of Sharon's Care. Have you judge, making sure we can heal through the RCS. A 4-4 RCS line, just setting up and playing the board the way you want to. Cleansing Gloves to deal with Gardevoir. Only 3 copies of Boss. We have the Barrow to draw cards, the Pikachu for Lugia. 2 V-Guards to make the game annoying. Only 1 copy of Research, which is interesting, but I guess you just want to be Judge pathing every single turn with 3 of each and 1 Iono for the late game. So very consistent, straightforward build. Looks good. And then we have in third, Lost Box Turbo, Lost Box Turbo with 1 Forest, 1 Sky Seal Stone. Jet Energy giving us the help to get where we need to be. Luxray giving us an electric type attacker when we're behind. 1 Luxray plus Mirage Gate seems very, very strong. So Luxray, keep your guys' eyes out for this card. This card's going to be very, very good. 180 is a lot of damage on a 1 prizer out of nowhere. And Lost Box also typically might be behind a lot of the time. Setting up for Sky Seal Stone plays out of nowhere. You can super out this guy back. Lost Box is Lost Box. There's 2 copies of Raihan in this list. No Clara. Super Rod taking its place. Maybe 1 Clara is still pretty good, I think, because 1 Clara can just get you Sableye energy back and just set up the game the way you want it to play it. But Super Rod plus Iono could be good too, so maybe an Iono in these decks over something like a Roxanne, which is not even in this list. I don't know. A lot of variables. Lost Zone has infinite combinations and permutations. In second place, we have Gardevoir. Gardevoir was our finalist. A very stock standard list here with the Drifloon. 4 copies of Iono, no copies of Research. Worker, Zinnias, just a quick, very aggressive. I'm going to set up the board build with Mirage Step at the toe. 11 energies, 1 reversal, 1 Palpad, 1 Super Rod for recovery. Sealstone, Temple Sinnoh. It's a very stock standard list, very similar to what Tord has been playing. It is the best deck if it sets up, I think, in my opinion. The problem is it has to set up and play the game. In the champion, our regional CL champion was Lost Box, or not Lost Box, I messed it up so bad. Gardevoir. Gardevoir, again, a very stock standard, consistent list, and not that many fun supporters. Look at all the 4-ofs down the line. We see the 4 Iono with 2 Research, 2 Boss, just setting up our board, playing to our outs, 2 Super Rod, 3 Candy. 3 Candy is something I really, 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 really like. Even in this current format, I think 3 Candy can be very, very strong. 4 VIPP, 4 level, 3 Fog, 3 Ultra Ball, giving us so many cards to just set up the game, play the game. Just ways to, like, there are very few dead hand permutations in this deck, which is what I really like. It lets you play the game, find a way to get to your Raltses, find a way to get into Curlia's turn 2, and then you're making your way through your entire deck, and all you want to do is boss, 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 boss every turn. And that's what this list does. It's very, very consistent. And once again, that is our top 16 decks from Champions League Niigata. I hope you guys enjoyed. Just let me know what ideas you have for Paldea Evolve in the future. I'll be setting up some content moving towards NAIC, so we'll check that out together. Love you guys. Peace out. Thank you for watching.